180 and Wacky Darts are two games that I really love on the good old Specky. I first played 180 as a kid and spent a lot of time trying to nail down the knack of it. For the most part, I reckon I've generally succeeded.
Because of that, I started yearning for a similar game that was just a bit more challenging.
Sometime during 2024 I learned of Wacky Darts and bought it. It was everything I wanted, got addicted to it pretty quickly. Been looking more into these games and have been surprised to find out that there is no actual link between them. Created by completely different programmers and released by different publishers. Looking at them side by side, the similarities should be pretty clear to anyone with eyes. I guess that Wacky Darts was just heavily inspired by 180 and nothing more.
Anyway, I really want to talk about these games a bit, so here we go.
Starting with 180, a game released on the Mad label from Mastertronic back in 1986 for £2.99. Featuring a voice sample which was somewhat surprising at the time. I think it was the first form of digital speech I'd ever heard come out of the Spectrum. The inlay art really does set the tone of the game. In an era where game cases were often very misleading, it's nice to see something like this. It contains a few game modes. There is Tune Up, which is basically around the clock with a timer. Game On, the main tournament mode that throws you in at the quarterfinals against a myriad of comically looking and named opponents that follows the standard 501 format. The guys really look like something straight out of Fizz. And there is also a 2-player option, which is nice. You always get to throw first in each leg, which is not quite correct rule-wise, but I guess that was a deliberate decision. Seeing as the opponent that you always meet in a tournament final, Jammy Jim, will 9-dart you without fail every single time, your only hope is to 9-dart him first, hence you always throw first.
I've heard that it's possible for him to miss a dart, but I've never ever seen it myself.
When you're on the oche, you control a dismembered floating hand that moves diagonally. The idea is to line it up at a specific distance below what you're aiming for and then throw the dart. Once you get a feel for it, it becomes fairly simple to get good at. When your opponent steps up, you get presented with a scene that looks like your average social club from the 1980s. Just looking at it conjures up the smell of smoke, the rustling sound of a bag of pork scratchings, and some retired regular sat at the bar who claims to know everything about everything. Plus, every once in a while a dog appears and pisses up the bar. What's not to love about that? I imagine many Specky owners came across this game at the time, what with it being cheaper and one of the games you could buy in a corner shop. Looking at magazine reviews, Crash gave it 72%. They seem to think positively of the game overall, with the only real criticism being that it gets a bit monotonous, which I can understand.
Personally, I don't mind the general repetitive nature of it. The simplicity made it addictive in my eyes.
Your Sinclair gave it a 9 and declared it a mega game, seemingly loving it for what it is. ZX Computing was far less kind, giving it a groan and appearing generally unimpressed.
Quite a bit of disparity in the opinions among the magazines, which I'm quite surprised by. I never really read anything about it back then, it just ended up in front of me and I loved it.
Plus, seeing how people have spoken about it online since made me think it was generally always considered good. Strangely, the copy that I currently own doesn't have a loading screen, pretty sure the one I had as a kid did. Though I believe I had the black label cassette rather than this white labelled one that I have now. Might be something to do with it, might not. God no idea. Anyway, for years and years I've played this on and off, back on my Specky as a kid, plenty of times since via emulation, and again more recently with my current tape and Plus 2A. It's always been fun to come back to, but as mentioned before, it did start to make me itch for something a bit more difficult as I'd pretty much mastered it.
In recent years I've been part of some great Specky groups on Facebook, and one day Wacky Darts popped up. I'd never heard of it before, but when I saw a similar floaty hand and board screen I was immediately fascinated by it.
I looked at more screenshots online and figured this must be a sequel that passed me by. Regardless, I was sold, went to eBay, hunted it down and bought a copy. Released by Codemasters in 1991, also for £2.99, it arrived pretty late in a Specky's lifespan, probably why I'd never heard of it. It really does feel like an evolution in every way, building on what 180 had already established. It still contains both the 501 and round-the-clock modes, both of which can be played in tournament or single match form. 2-player is also still available. In the tournament you start in the quarterfinals again, also it still has the social club / pub scene when an opponent throws. It also has bizarre opponents, though this time they are far more ridiculous, like a ninja throwing stars at the board or an alien shooting it with a beam. Also, Jeffrey Archer makes an appearance. Sorry, I mean Jeff the Archer. Admittedly, I prefer the nature of the humour in 180 than the over-the-top silliness that this goes for, but it's still amusing. Like the TV announcer's words being upside down when broadcasting from Australia. It's daft, but that's kind of the point. Doubt that they had the rights from the BBC to use these logos though. The order of who throws first actually switches each leg in this one, which I consider an improvement. Probably done that way because whoever you meet in the final isn't a massive cheating bastard this time around. But the real meat and potatoes is in the throwing mechanics. The hand has gravity and kinda bounces on the bottom of the screen until the momentum stops. It also has horizontal momentum that can be adjusted by lightly tapping the keys. Once you've gotten the hand under control to line up your shot, you also have the frame of animation the hand is displaying to consider, as it too contributes to the shot. The further back the hand is pulled, the higher the throw. On top of all that, each shot has a time limit, unlike 180 where you can take as long as you like. All of this together makes it far harder to throw consistently, but there is certainly a knack to it.
I love how it works, and I'm yet to get good enough to throw 180s consistently, let alone even dream of trying to get a 9 dart.
The method I tend to go for is to let the hand drop and stay at the bottom, then line up horizontally, tapping the keys lightly to stop in the desired position, and finally bring the hand up to the height I want, floating up and down until the hand animation is on the frame that leans forward the most. By no means a foolproof method, it is the one that seems to produce the best results for me. I'm nowhere near as good at this compared to 180, but that makes me love Wacky Darts all the more for it. I've only ever actually beaten the tournament once, and that was using the controller via emulation in Spectaculator. Luckily I was recording it at the time, so that ended up on the channel as a playthrough video. I've come across a couple of magazine reviews. Crash gave it 76%, slightly higher than 180. They seemed to like it. Your Sinclair gave it 82 and pretty much shared many of my sentiments on it, seemingly enjoying it.
Both games are brilliant, I reckon, and honestly I can't pick a favourite. Wacky Darts is arguably the better game overall with the improvements and the nice touches, but I'll always love 180 for its simplicity and of course the nostalgia. Anyway, that's all for today. Have a good one you lot, and I'll see you later.